Alright, so today, way too close to when the next episode's going to be coming out, again, because my life is crazy. On that note, if you hear puppy noises, that's because my puppies are making noises. I set them up a pen here in my office so they could be with me more. So, that's probably going to happen. I waited a while to let them get a little tired out before I started recording, but they don't really get tired. I don't know why I expected that to work. That said, next episode's coming out is probably in 2 days. I hope I can get this up on Monday. So, to save time, I'm going to be talking about 2 episodes again. We're going to be talking about we check into Cece's Spawn Resort, and nobody gets the fleece. Which, if this were the book, that would be basically the book done at that point. And yet there's still so much more that this season looks like it's going to give us. And I'm very excited about it. Because some of it I predicted, and some of it I should have predicted out loud. But I didn't. I waited. And I'm really excited that it's happening. But let's talk about these episodes first. And then we'll talk about what seems to be coming. And why I'm excited about it. Now, first of all, to address something that bothered me, I have a weird false memory of there being a whole other sequence on a ship between the Ironside being destroyed by Charybdis and our characters ending up on Circe's island, because that's what Cece is. Circe, obviously. Like, I thought they managed to salvage the Ironside, but then they, crashed again. And I don't know where that memory came from. I'm getting my wires crossed somewhere. But I really thought that was something that happened in the book. I went back and reread it, though. That section, up to that section, anyway. Still haven't had time to read the rest. And it doesn't. There is a sequence on a raft, I think it was, where Annabeth catches Percy up on what happened. That Tyson went down with the ship, as did Clarice, and they're both seemingly dead. Where they rolled that into them waking up at the resort in the show, which I get. It's fewer sets, it's cheaper and faster and easier to film. And I really like Walker's acting here. Like, he's so torn up about what happened to Tyson. And I think it factors into something that happens later, which was technically a change from the book. But I really liked it. I really liked what they did with it. Puppy, please stop digging at the carpet. Please. A change I'm not really sure about, though, is the changes they made to Circe. She felt almost more Calypso than Circe here. Like, she was still a sorceress, and she still, collected people to work at her resort, like she did in the book. They even managed to remember for the show that the attendant that came to see to Percy and Annabeth when they arrived there was Hilla, the sister of Reyna, the praetor of Camp Jupiter when we get to the Heroes of Olympus books, who becomes the leader of the Amazons, which was really cool. And the girl was perfectly cast to play Hilla. If we ever do get Heroes of Olympus adaptations, you could just use the same actress and it would be perfect, frankly. But rather than Circe being a villain, an obstacle to overcome, they tried to make her more sympathetic, like they did with Medusa, which I thought worked there. I'm not sure it works here, though. I didn't dislike the episode, and I do understand why they did it more than just to make the character deeper, because they rolled the Circe stuff in with the having to get past the sirens stuff, and because they did that, they decided to tie them together. And now, granted, I only read the Odyssey once, but I do have a lot of experience with the story from the obviously best adaptation, Wishbone and the Amazing Odyssey for PC from 1996. And from that, I'm pretty sure Circe was just a bad guy. She was just a sorceress who collected women to train in sorcery. Makes sense. She's the daughter of Hecate, the goddess of sorcery. But she didn't like men. She was kind of sexist against men. So she turned them into animals. And that's what happened to Odysseus and his crew. And as of the time of Percy Jackson, she disguises her sorcery school as a spa. And then traps men and turns them into guinea pigs, because pigs are too big and smelly for her to want to keep making more and more of them to stash on her island. And then she entices the women with promises of making them into their best selves so that she can trick them into staying and training with her. And we don't really get a motive for why she does it in the book, aside from the fact that that's just what she does. But here, rather than training people in sorcery, she just wants friends. She got tired of people crashing on her island and then leaving. And so she has started a program which promises to help heroes who pass through the Sea of Monsters overcome their fatal flaw so that they can't be tempted by the sirens, and then they can leave and continue on their quest. But it's such a difficult program. Hardly anybody ever passes it. But a few have, and that's just enough to keep giving the other residents hope. But oh no, Circe has been giving them magic wax, like what Odysseus used to beat the sirens, so that they can continue on their quest and inspire the rest to stay with her and continue her program, which doesn't actually do anything. Now, we do get some exploration of Annabeth and Percy's fatal flaws here. Percy is undyingly loyal to his friends. He admits that the thing that makes him dangerous in the context of the Great Prophecy is that if Annabeth was in trouble, he would burn down Olympus to save her. And later on, he kind of does that, actually. And Annabeth is pride, but she already knows that. I can't remember if she already knew that in the book. I don't think she did. It did kind of streamline a conversation in the episode, though. So that was fine. And I love the woman they got to play Circe. Don't get me wrong. This was still a good episode. It was a good sequence. I liked it a lot. She made for a really great antagonist without actually being a physical threat at all. Unless you count her magic like a physical thing. And she did turn Percy into a guinea pig, like in the book. And he did meet the other guinea pigs that she had in her guinea pig pen, like in the book. And they were Blackbeard and his pirate crew, like in the book. And then Annabeth did turn Percy and all of the pirates back into humans using the vitamins that Hermes gave Percy, just like in the book. It hit all the important notes, like all the iconic moments. But in this version, Circe had more to her. Her motivations were different. And getting away from her island meant sailing directly to the sirens and engaging with them as an aspect of leaving the island directly. It was just different. And it's the first thing that is different this season that I can't say definitively whether or not I like it better. I think it's just a thing that is different, and I'm neutral on it, which is weird, because I'm a very opinionated person, in case you couldn't tell. So I'm actually kind of curious, how do you guys feel about the changes to Circe for this episode? The like, 3 of you that watch these, because again, I cannot stress enough, this season is shockingly unpopular. Like, at least in like online discussion circles, like people are watching it, but there's still no one talking about it. So like, start talking about it. I say that, and my reviews have been stunningly inconsistent. So like, I don't even have room to talk. Anyway, they changed up the sirens too, but I like how it was done here. In the book, Annabeth wants to hear the siren song, so they tie her up to the mast like Odysseus did. Because I say Odysseus got by them with wax. He put wax in the ears of his crew, and then had his crew tie him to the mast. And in the book, Annabeth just replicated that wholesale. In this, though, her being untied and unwaxed when the sirens start their song was an accident, which I liked a little better. Annabeth is sometimes reckless when attempting to gain knowledge. I think she was trying to learn what her fatal flaw was, actually, from the sirens in the book. I think that's right. Really should have gone and read the chapter before I started doing this. Would have taken me like 10 minutes. That's beside the point. You could almost say that her wanting to hear the song was an outgrowth of her fatal flaw of pride in the book. But here she was trying to be practical, but she just she wasn't able to be. Circe snatched the wax back away from them with magic before she could use it. So she hears the song, and they don't explicitly say this, but she does intellectually understand what's happening. She sees a vision of her various friends arguing with each other, and there are 3 of them. Like, there's the 3 sirens, which looked so cool in the show. They weren't like beautiful mermaid type fish women or whatever. They were monsters, but like, if you want to see a lusty woman, that's what you would see, right? Their designs were just super cool. They were like rock spirit people. It was great. But like, on an intellectual level, she knows what's happening. She knows that those figures that she's seeing in this place that she wasn't a second ago must be the sirens, so she pretends to succumb to their song to get close to them and attack them. But of course, the sirens can see into her mind, so they do know that that's what's going to happen. So they set her a double-layer trap and give her a vision of her mother coming in to save her from the final siren, which is where we get our casting with Athena, and she looked great. Like, they did the whole Riordan verse mix of like classic design and modern stuff, with her wearing like a cool golden sweatsuit type thing, but then also having, I think it was laurels and her Athena spear. And she comes in and praises Annabeth for setting a trap for the sirens, and then tries to take her hand, but it's really the siren trying to take her hand, and Percy has to come in and save her at the last second, immune to the siren song, because the thing he wanted most in that moment was to get to and save her, which is such a cool loophole. It was a great scene. It was a great vulnerable moment for Annabeth, who her biggest thing is that her mother doesn't seem to acknowledge her. I liked it. It was really good. And then as they sail past, they arrive at Polyphemus' island for what would be the climax of the story if this was the book. They're very cute, but they're very loud. And it was good. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. But the next one, guys, you done? The next one is the one that I've been waiting for this entire season. We do also get some stuff in here and there of Clarisse washing up on Polyphemus' island, which I'll admit kind of disappointed me that they went with that in the show. I kind of wanted her to end up on Circe's island with the others, so we could get like her siren vision too. Thought that would have been really cool. But no, she washes up on Polyphemus' island. She ends up with Grover. And Polyphemus in this, he's so much cooler than in the book. Because in the book, he was basically just a dumb animal. He was easy to trick. And granted, he wasn't super hard to trick in the Odyssey, but he would have learned from that, right? And so he's been kind of playing Grover the entire time, and he plans to use Grover and Clarisse as bait and leave them alive long enough to do so, because, like, he wouldn't know what ways the people coming to find them would have to tell if they're still alive yet or not, right? And so he paints a fake golden fleece, and he ties them up in the cave because he has overheard Grover talking to Percy in his sleep, and knows that Percy knows that Grover is being kept in a cave. He also knows that Percy knows there's a hole in the roof and that it's marked by the golden fleece, and so he roughly knows what Percy's plan to save Grover will be. He mimics Percy's voice, because I guess Grover mimicked Percy when he was talking in his dream because of the empathy. I don't know how that worked, but it was cool and it was creepy. I cannot express enough how much I love how they handled Polyphemus in this season. He's so much more interesting than in the book. But yeah, anyway, Percy and Annabeth do arrive. They do the whole thing that Odysseus did, sneaking in with Polyphemus' sheep, because he does take them inside to the cave at the end of the day. I think, though, guys, such vicious girls. I think, though, in the Odyssey, didn't they, like, cling to the bottom of live sheep to get inside? Here they just hide under some fleeces that were drying on the fence, and mimic sheep to hide their scent and their appearance. And the issue with that is Polyphemus has a very small herd of sheep. Flock of sheep? Is it flock? I think it's flock, right? But he doesn't have many of them in this version, which again, I understand. They would need a lot of animals to really reflect the size of his flock of sheep in the original, because he's supposed to have a lot of them. And animals are expensive and annoying. But, like, there were few enough sheep there that if they weren't hiding under the sheep, if they were pretending to be additional sheep, he should have been able to look at them and count how many vaguely sheep-like blobs were there and know something was up. And I think there's a moment in the episode where we see him look at them and kind of smile, where we're supposed to realize that that's what happened, right? You know, he goes along with it because he's trying to trick them. But wouldn't Annabeth have figured that out? Right? We also get Luke coming back into the story here. We also get Luke coming back into the story here, sending an iris message to Annabeth to check in on her, make sure she is okay, but he uses the excuse that he's trying to learn how far along they are in the quest, because he does want the golden fleece for himself. He's just trying to let her get it, so he can avoid some danger. And then he does come to the island, using the show-only ability of his sword Backbiter to cut portals open in the air between important places, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's fine, it's whatever. And even if they did introduce a slight plot hole with Annabeth and Percy clearly giving themselves away by adding more sheep to Polyphemus' flock randomly, they erase another plot hole. Annabeth, in order to try to distract Polyphemus as things start to go to crap, in the book, she puts on her invisibility cap and she pretends to be nobody. The name that Odysseus used to trick Polyphemus. Because Polyphemus even calls it out in the episode. He lives alone now, aside from his sheep, because he has learned that you can only trust yourself. And he learned that because he didn't live alone in the original. He was being harassed by Odysseus, calling himself nobody. And so when the other Cyclopes came to help, Polyphemus says, "Help me, nobody is attacking me." And they all laughed at him and ran away, like left him alone. And that partially led to his defeat and to the injury to his eye that still persists to this day. And so now it's just him and his sheep, because he doesn't trust nobody. And so Annabeth, knowing that if his injury persists, his trauma must also persist, takes advantage of that. and she pretends to be nobody. But that's a huge plot hole. Because even if book Polyphemus is kind of stupid, he still has a Cyclops' ears. He should be able to distinguish one voice from another. And so they caught that in the show and say that she's just an accomplice to nobody, so that she can still trigger him with the name, but not be caught out by literally pretending to be Odysseus. Because even if you could argue that book Polyphemus wouldn't have caught on, show Polyphemus definitely would. And then from there, the chapter, like the book chapter, pretty much continues as normal. Annabeth is gravely injured. Tyson, who we thought was dead, shows up. He was brought here by Rainbow, the hippocampi, who we met earlier in the book, but they saved the reveal for here in a much better spot, I think. And he shows up, and he doesn't want to fight Polyphemus, but straight up, like, Tyson is the strongest Cyclops. So he makes quick work of him. And in the book, it went on a little longer. This basically served as the climax in the book, and it was super unsatisfying. Because Polyphemus was not a threat in the book at all. Like, they kept saying he was, but he did not come off like a threat. And the action sequence with him was only okay. Like, you can argue with me in the comments if you want, but I'm pretty confident in saying that. And so rather than trying to make it a big spectacle in the show, Tyson just shows up. He has a little bit of a philosophical talk with Polyphemus, Cyclops to Cyclops, chooses his brother, and says, I don't want to hurt you, and then just kind of immediately physically overpowers Polyphemus. We don't see the finishing blow. They go off a cliff together into the water, and we see Percy's perspective as he's worrying about Tyson because he just got him back. And now he's worried. Again. And then Tyson shows up and it's fine. In the meantime, though, Annabeth is dying, and Luke is here. And there's a crack between the wall of the cave and the stone covering the entrance. And so Percy gives Luke the golden fleece to heal Annabeth. And he does, but then he picks up her knife, which they draw attention to. They've done that a couple times this season. We haven't gotten any dialogue about why it's special. I'm assuming we're going to get it next episode, which is going to be super cool, because it's going to be dialogue literally between her and Luke, which is great. If you've read the books, you know why that's great. But then he takes her, and he goes back to the Princess Andromeda. And everybody's pissed at Percy, including Percy. He's having a fucking breakdown over it. Because he literally burned camp to save Annabeth. It's not literally Olympus, but it's the next best thing to burning down Olympus to save her, like he literally said he would do earlier. It's so good because you want to hear, when you hear the hero say that, you want to be like, oh no, you're the hero. You wouldn't actually do that. He would. He literally would, and it makes him such an interesting character because he knows it's the wrong choice, but he does it anyway. It was just very good. Walker handled it all the characters handled it very well, honestly. Just a fantastic scene. And now we get the reveal of Rainbow and his friends, who are going to carry Percy, Grover, Clarice, and Tyson to the Princess Andromeda to get Annabeth and the Fleece back in a big additional action climax directly involving Luke and his allies, and giving us way more dialogue between Luke and Annabeth. They're going to talk about Thalia and what she would have wanted, which side she would have been on. They're going to continue that debate. And they're even going to foreshadow Thalia returning at the end of the season. And this is something I thought might happen, not literally those things, but something like this. Because even the Sea of Monsters movie, which, again, I'm more forgiving of than most people, but it's not a good movie, felt the need to add an additional climax at the end of this story, because, again, the book climax is only okay. But they went about it in basically the worst possible way they could have. Here it looks like they're going to do the opposite of that and give us a great climax. And you know how I mentioned earlier, Percy doesn't free Blackjack the first time they're on the boat? We see Blackjack in the preview for next episode. It looks like my idea that he's going to free him later in a later action sequence, a later climax, is true. And that's why I think it was so much better in this version that they finally showed us Rainbow here rather than earlier. Puppies! Because now you're going to get the introductions of Tyson's mount and Percy's mount very close together as part of this extended climax. And I also wonder if in order to save money, instead of, spoiler for the end of the book, instead of having Clarice complete her prophecy by flying home alone with the Fleece on a plane, something that Percy can't do because Zeus would shoot him down, they're going to have her fly home on Blackjack, so they won't have to, like, shoot a plane. Right? But that poses a problem, actually. I'd rather Percy just kind of free Blackjack like he did in the book and send him flying off. Because Percy can fly on Blackjack. Because his father is the creator of horses, so riding on a flying horse puts him on neutral ground even in the air. And maybe they just want to figure that out yet, and so they'll still send Clarice. That's one of my favorite parts of the book, is they set their pride aside and let Clarice finish her quest, because this is technically her quest, right? And they'll still send her even on Blackjack. Or maybe they will know that. They still won't send her on a plane, but they'll send her back on Blackjack because it's her quest, and they want her to finish it. Which would be much better. And faster, because planes have to, like, move through physical space, but Blackjack, my boy, can teleport. It's more like spatial. It's like he makes a wormhole kind of thing. He's Blackjack's the best. I'm just so psyched that he's here. No, little puppy, don't cry. I'm almost done recording, and then I can stay with you. They could still, like, don't get me wrong, they could still fumble with this extended finale on the boat. And it'll really suck if they do, because then this will basically fail for, well, not the same reasons as the movie, but one of the same reasons as the movie. I don't think they're going to, though. I think they're going to stick this landing. This season's just been so good. First season's good. This season's so much better. Which is weird to say about Lightning Thief versus Sea of Monsters. Because, I like Sea of Monsters. It's not as good as Lightning Thief by a mile. But that does account for the final 2 episodes of the season. The climax on the boat, and then completing the quest and going back to camp and resolving things there. I'm just so psyched to see it. Probably gonna end up talking about both those things in one video again. What are you gonna do? What do you guys think about these episodes, though? What do you think of the changes they made? What do you think about them adding this extended climax with Luke? Are you excited about it? Do you think it's a mistake in general to add something so substantial to an existing story as part of an adaptation? Do you just have such a bad taste in your mouth from the movie that you wish they had done this on principle? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well leave a like and subscribe and all that other stuff. But either way, this has been 8822, and I will actually give me 1 second. I will talk to you guys later. And this one's Mabel, and this one's Lorelei. Mabel, Lorelei. Say hi to everybody. Aww.